Hi, welcome to Ben and Barry on Football. My name is Barry Sterling Mitchell, and I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. My compadre in crime is...
My name is Ben Dickerson. Right now I'm holed up in my fantasy sports war room. It's Super Bowl time, so that means in my main fantasy league, I'm in the Super Bowl, and my team is picked, and I'm trying to be confident. The other guy's got a strong squad. We can talk about that later if we have time. But I'm ready to rock and talk about the game.
Well, we've got a few surprises. Being that this is Super Bowl, we don't have our normal slate of 16 games to cover, so we can cover a few extra things, and we'll talk about them. But Ben, before we get started, you notice my shirt? Huh? You want to see it?
Is that Roxborough?
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
Can you see what this says?
2004 rushing record. Oh, okay, that's nice.
And this
When'd you get that? Yeah, when'd you get that?
Well, believe it or not, when Christopher was in high school, my son Christopher Mitchell broke the 2004 all-time rushing record at Roxborough High School. I had this shirt made up, and I had put it away.
Oh, I was going to say, you're showing it to me like it's new, and I'm like, Chris did that a long time ago. How long you had that shirt? Did you just get that? You put it away.
I had it put away and forgot all about it.
Oh.
And I was cleaning out a chest, and I'm like, whoa, look at this. And it fit. I must have planned on getting fat because I had them exercised up.
Right.
So, Christopher, if you're out there, this one's for you. You know, we're on here with the Roxborough High School football shirt and talking about all your accomplishments. So that's just a little surprise just to get started. This is the Ben and Barry on Football show, and we're going to be talking about Super Bowl 53. That's LIII, Benny. And
okay.
Just in case you didn't know. And before you go any further, let's just quickly say where you can always find us at www.benandbarryonfootball.com. That'll take you to our YouTube page, Twitter at B&B on Football, and on Facebook at BNBOF. So that's where we are. And before you do anything, please remember to click the subscribe button and the notification button so that you can be assured to catch up with us as we produce ongoing videos on Ben and Barry on Football. Today's show, we're going to do a few different things. We're going to go through the Super Bowl 53 by the numbers. We're going to talk about that. And that kind of ties into the Super Bowl matchup here. We're going to talk about an innovation competition, something that most people have not talked about on the mass media, but there's some things happening that the NFL is doing to promote safety, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And B&B Super Bowl memories. Between the two of us, what is that, 9 Super Bowls?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a pretty good percentage of the 53.
Yeah, you guys got 5.
And then you've got the other team, so that's 18 different teams that were involved that we can throw something out about. But I only have a couple things to say about that. Then we'll actually get into the matchup and any rants. Of course, we have to have our rants, and my rant will sort of go talk about that Pro Bowl, their conundrum, and I have a solution for that. And I know you said you were interested in what that might be. So before we get started, I just want to give you an opportunity. As always, did you have anything in general you wanted to say?
In general, in reference to the Super Bowl, or in general? General
in general.
Well, maybe I'll take this time to speak really quickly about my fantasy thing, because I'm really excited about this. I'm always saying I'm a fantasy guru and this and that and the other. I'm in the midst of a fantasy NBA season right now. I got a bunch of teams. They're all doing well. Most of them are in first place. Some are in second. So I'm riding pretty high right now with that. But my main fantasy football league, because for most people, fantasy football is over. My main fantasy football league does go all the way to the Super Bowl. And without getting into detail, basically what happens is when the regular season is over, the real NFL regular season is over, we have a redraft by the owners that are going to the fantasy playoffs. And then once there's 2 teams left, then we go and redraft again. And basically we take turns drafting Patriots or Rams, since they're the 2 teams that are playing. However, if you happen to pick up some of these people in the original playoff draft, they stay with you and you're allowed to keep them. Well, the guy I'm playing drafted almost as if he knew these 2 teams were going to get to the Super Bowl. Me in a bad way. He's got Sony Michel, he's got Goff, he's got CJ Anderson. He was pretty stacked with players from both teams. But he had to choose a quarterback. He chose to stick with Goff. That means I automatically get Brady, so on and so forth. On paper, his team looks strong. Fantasy projections say he's only projected to beat me by 7, which means I feel pretty good about that. And
okay, you got some fantasy projections.
We got
version of Vegas.
Absolutely. Every player is rated every week according to who he's playing, how he's playing, competition level of the team that they're playing, blah, blah, blah. And they project it out, and then they'll project which one of us should win that way.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've won with a 50-point projection, so 7 is nothing to me. You know how to go against the net point bias, eh? Well, when you talk about the bias, it's not going to help me as much in this particular game, but it does help me during the year. This is the last game. There's only 2 teams involved. So, but during the season, I definitely use the bias because usually I'm playing with stars. You try your best to play with as many star players as you can. And if he's a star of a team that the bias says is going to win, especially if that team happens to be home, I'm pretty much not even going to think about it. I'm going to play that guy.
Okay.
It does come into play in that.
So and then after the Super Bowl, you guys will calculate your numbers based on what they do in the Super Bowl, and at some point after the Super Bowl, you'll know whether you won or not.
We'll know as soon as the game's over, as soon as the final whistle.
The numbers get crunched, and you get what do you get? An email? Congratulations, you're the champion.
We
are the champion.
Well, we control our website. I'm a co-commissioner along with someone else.
Oh, that sounds like
so if I win,
like fraud and conspiracy in there.
No,
you got your own refs. You don't have your own refs from South California, do you?
That's the beauty of this. The computer does everything.
Okay.
All I got to do is put the players' names in there and let it go.
By the way, let me mention the 2 young men to my, I guess that's my left over there. That's, again, Ben and Barry. That was sort of a long time ago football, and some 40-some years ago, and we're still debating football as vigorously as ever. So
any way we can. He's got his son's running back title on his shirt from 2004. I'm talking about fantasy that I started playing in the late 90s. So, yeah, we'll take it any way we can get it.
Oh, and believe me, Madden. I'm a Madden guy. Ben doesn't do Madden. I don't do fantasy. And we both debate the virtues and problems with both of those. But I love Madden. I taught my son the basics of the game in terms of thinking the game through Madden. And if there's one thing that I think Madden does, does help you think the game. So let's get ready to get started with our show. So again, let's just talk a couple seconds, Benny, about Super Bowl memories. Now, again, you're a Giants fan. I'm a Niners fan.
Right.
But we've been watching Super Bowls. I remember, I guess the first one was the Green Bay against Dallas. And Green Bay won that one. That's the frozen tundra with Bart Starr going over the sneaking over the middle.
Super Bowl?
Wasn't that a Super Bowl one?
No, that was a world championship.
No, man. I think that was the first Super Bowl.
It wasn't a Super Bowl.
All right, we'll argue about that one, but I do remember that championship. And
Yeah, the
one of
Ice
my
Bowl.
first exposures to football was the Green Bay Packers and Bart Starr. I'm a Niner fan today, but all I knew back then was that, you know, a guy with a name like Bart Starr had to be he had to be an awesome guy. So that was early on. But you as a Giants fan, you know, what comes to mind when we talk about Super Bowls?
Well, when we talk about Super Bowls, as a Giants fan, I'm very happy to say that I've been around to see 4 Super Bowl wins. Two of them have come against the New England Patriots also within the time of their supposed or so-called dynasty. And I'm not saying it's not a dynasty. I'm just saying other people call it a dynasty. But within those two, the New York Giants have beaten the Patriots for the ultimate prize. Before that, we had titles in 1986 season and the 1990 season. I remember Jeff Hostetler having to take over for Phil Simms and being able to win a Super Bowl for us, which was highly improbable. I remember the one against, matter of fact, I think it was the same one, against the Buffalo Bills when they missed the field goal at the end. Very dramatic. I remember the 2 wins against the Patriots, but in those games, 2 things stick out in my mind as far as things that happened during the game. One, you may have seen, if you've seen the 30 for 30 or whatever it is about Michael Strahan, where he's on the sideline and he's telling the guys there's X amount of minutes left in this game and all we need is another score and we're Super Bowl champions. And he told them what the final score was going to be. And it happened. Plaxico in the corner. Beautiful pass from
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool. That was really cool.
Plaxico was kind of like the Gronk. He wasn't a tight end, but he was so tall that, you know, he just was a mismatch against pretty much every D-back out there if you could just get him alone, you know, get him isolated or something like that.
Yeah, Plaxico had a nice little career if you really look back on it between the Giants and the Steelers. But I was happy to have him on our team.
Yeah, I remember when he right, exactly.
Yeah. And another Super Bowl that sticks in my mind, and this is the thing. I love the New York Football Giants. That is my team. When they're in the Super Bowl, I know, you know, people that every Sunday they put on all their football paraphernalia, their favorite lucky shirt with their team on it and their hat and they're all that, and they go to the stadium or they go to a bar and they do it every week. I don't do that. But on Super Bowl Sunday, when my team is in, I got on my LT jersey, I got my hat, and I'm home in my chair, and I don't go anywhere until that game is over. I probably won't answer the phone if you call me.
You don't answer the phone anyway when the Giants are playing.
Well, that's not true now because I watch Red Zone a lot. But back when I did just watch straight game, I ain't like doing that. Here's the thing. In 2000, the Giants went to the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens. And my boy, friend of mine from work, said, look, I'm having a Super Bowl party. Not a big thing, just a couple people making all this food. And I was like, oh, I don't know, man. My team. He's like, man, come on, man. Team's good. They're going to win. They're going to eat food. And I went over there, and the Ravens, they hurt me, man. They hurt me. That Super Bowl really hurt me. And I swore I would never go anywhere to watch a Super Bowl my team is in ever again. I remember that.
Really?
Like it was yesterday. And all the time I'm sitting there and he's being real hospitable and all this. And I'm like, I should have never came here. I shouldn't have done it. I should have stayed home.
Well,
Got me coming up with these memories, man. I'm getting teary-eyed, man.
I see you over there. I see you. I
Man.
see you. And you know, I didn't even say my beloved and put my hand over my heart like I'm supposed to when I'm talking about my Niners. And again, you know, the Niners were sort of the team of the 80s. Cowboys were the 90s, I do believe. Oh, and oh, by the way, I did take a quick look as far as that Super Bowl is concerned. The first Super Bowl is considered to be the game between Kansas City and Green Bay.
Green Bay, right.
Green Bay won that 35-10 back in January of 97. Bart Starr was the MVP.
Right. And the reason I knew right away that couldn't have been a Super Bowl was because when they decided to call it the Super Bowl and decided to have the actual AFC, NFC thing going on, which wasn't right away. It was 3 of them before they actually became AFC, NFC. It was still NFL, AFL. They determined that they would have it at a neutral site that had good weather. So as soon as you said the frozen tundra, I was like, no, that couldn't.
Oh, you know, now that you mention it, yeah, because that would put because Green Bay and the Cowboys were both in the same conference.
Right. They were both NFL teams, so that couldn't happen either. But the Super Bowl is always at a warm weather site for the most part. Yeah,
absolutely. And the one thing I remember during my time with watching the Niners was that I always felt like there was a connection where I could feel kind of when the team was really ready to do something. And I remember
that's your fandom talking to you, is partly, but it's
could be. I'm not saying, but I remember them being so feisty, like somebody did something to Montana, and they were like ready to fight. They were like grabbing each other and push, and I'm like, ooh, they're ready.
Yeah,
you know, these guys are ready. They're ready to go all the way. You know, and I had that feeling, and being here in Philadelphia, surrounded by Eagle fans, and I'm sure you have your own story about being surrounded by Eagle fans when it's your team and it's not the local team. It's Super Bowl time, and I would always just walk in the garage because, you know, as a tech for Verizon, you know, we're in there with all these technician guys, and a lot of testosterone flowing. You know what I mean? and they were like, your team ain't gonna do this, your team ain't gonna do that, and I would just look at them and I go, you know, it's like, I got it. You can put it on my shoulders. I'll carry it. Don't worry about it. These are my boys. I'm going down with them. And there was always that feeling. And years later, now that we're doing the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, and I went back and I studied it, and I found out that on a net point basis, the Niners are the #1 Super Bowl team in existence. In other words, of their Super Bowls, they won by the largest margin over all of their Super Bowls than any other team in NFL history. And if you really think about it, we had some blowouts. Like the Patriots are always winning by a field goal.
Oh yeah.
Right. So their margin is like 3 points or something like that, you know?
Right.
But we had some serious blowouts.
So now you calculated that over the history of the Super Bowl game itself and all the teams that have won Super Bowls.
I actually was able to find it. There are some statistical databases out there, and someone had that information, and I was able to basically sort through and get that information. Yeah. I didn't have to actually calculate it, but
you didn't do your own NPPR thing.
No, but I was, like I said,
But you will.
Well, I mean, the numbers are there. I don't have to do it because sometimes, again, everyone.
I want to see it. I'd like to see it net point.
Everyone uses differentials and margins and stuff like that,
sure.
But they don't use them like we use them.
Right, and that's my point. I want to see how it washes out using your system.
Okay, well, we could talk about that. No
rush.
Huh?
Bring that up for me in the off season.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the off season. So what else did we have here? Let's take a quick look. Any last thing that you want to say about your Super Bowl memories before we move on?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
All right. The innovation competition. I wanted to talk a little bit about that and sort of share some information. Now, I hope I can find it easily. Here it is. So what happened was on our Twitter page, we got connected with a company called Tackle Bar. And what's happening is that on Saturday, before the Super Bowl, the NFL is going to be part of a competition where these high-tech startup companies are going to pitch their company to the NFL or to the NFL's representatives and vie for a chance to win $50,000 for their company and also tickets to the Super Bowl. Now, Tackle Bar creates harnesses that teach players how to tackle properly, and they hope to reduce injuries with that. So in order to tackle properly, they put this harness on them, and then when they tackle, they have to grab the foam bars that are on the back of the person that they're tackling. Sort of like you guys have to do when you're grabbing flags,
It's similar, yes, it's similar.
Similar to that. So that idea is to begin to condition people to tackle correctly. When we coached, we taught good tackling techniques. Head to the side, hit with your shoulder, all of that kind of stuff. And that was I don't know how many years ago, 30 plus 40 years ago.
Right.
But what happens in college and what was happening outside of what we were doing, people were being taught to use their heads. So they're really trying to do this. So First and Future is an event sponsored by the NFL and Arrow Electronics, which focuses on startups that are developing products to improve athlete safety and performance. They have to give a 4-minute pitch, and that's what they're gonna have to do in order to compete for that. So that's going to be on Saturday, February 2nd, the day before the big game. The other startups will include Soleus, a Seattle company that uses nanospectrums of light to stimulate the production of critical hormones and peptides as a better way to reduce injuries. Now that's what you call some high-tech stuff right there.
That's high tech. I don't think they're going to win though.
Your money. Let's look at the rest of the competition.
They need to throw that idea around to the other sports too.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of these are not just football. Nano is a Milwaukee startup developing a wearable device that monitors an athlete's hydration levels.
They got a good shot.
You think so? Okay.
Also in other sports.
Tendon Nova is an Atlanta company right there where the bowl is being played, which creates a handheld device that aims to increase access to effective chronic tendon pain treatment. I could have probably used that for my plantar fasciitis, but I was able to find the solution in a different pair of sneakers here. And Topspin Technology, a Detroit startup that made a device that aims to strengthen a player's neck to help reduce concussion risk.
Okay.
So
they'll make money.
Yeah, so those are some of the companies that'll be vying for the $50,000, and second place will be $20,000. And I just wanted to kind of mention that because a lot of times people, talk about, the NFL is not, they're not really about, safety and things of that nature. And that's not really true. That they're doing things in a lot of different ways that people are not aware of. That happens to be one way that they're looking toward making it a safer game. But it's a collision sport, and just like in any sport, drag racing and the talent and all of the auto. I mean, that you can't get much more dangerous than some of those things. And so the companies that can make stuff that makes it safe, makes an inherently dangerous sport safer.
Right.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's great. I wonder if they're going to announce the winner.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe sometime during the broadcast or the pregame they'll say, "Oh, by the way, we had this competition." Da 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 da. I would think that they would want to talk about that because player safety is supposed to be so important to the NFL, which I believe that it is. It's a little late coming on the scene, and they're coming on, but they're trying to come on pretty strong. It's funny though, no matter how much they do, because the history of the whole concussion thing and how it was treated by the NFL, and the controversial things that were said about the NFL in reference to concussions.
Including the movie by Will Smith, right?
Yeah, that didn't help them either, you know? So even though they're doing these things, there's always going to be criticism. Heck, the non-call in the Saints-Rams game.
Right.
Everybody's like, yeah, everybody's talking about the pass interference. What about the helmet-to-helmet? They're like, I would think that they would talk about the helmet-to-helmet thing more because they're supposed to be so concerned about player safety. So they're never going to – but these things they're doing, this is a step in the right direction. You know, it's a step in the right direction. Those are real safety issues. I'm not 100% sure how the thing that looks for stuff in your tendons and all, exactly how that works, but I'm going to try to find out more about that. The other things seem to be pretty clear cut and could probably work really well for other sports such as, well, first one comes to my mind is hockey.
Yeah.
Because hockey is a collision sport also. They wear helmets, they wear shoulder pads, they wear rib pads. They're padded up similar to a football player. And the game,
but they fight with no
yeah, well, with
no helmets.
Guess what? If you get a concussion from getting punched in your dome, you can't blame that on the game.
It's part of the game in professional hockey.
Okay. All right. Well, it is. It is. But you don't have to take your helmet off, and you don't have to fight. They choose to fight. So that's on.
You can't skate away in terror in hockey. That doesn't.
No, you got. Hey, that's a whole nother. You know. But yeah, I think that's cool, especially the dehydration thing. That's super important.
I thought it was neat. I actually have my niece who has sort of a rare type of situation, and I don't know if I'm doing this right here. She has issues with hydration, so. That might be interesting.
Yeah, the problem with dehydration is a lot of times you don't know. You don't know you're dehydrated until.
Right, and that's her problem, and she tends to pass out.
Yeah, see now, a person that doesn't have a real issue, like a football player, will just all of a sudden be like weak, super tired. I could perform 5 minutes ago and now I can't. And then they send them to the locker room for an IV.
Right.
But if they have a device that they can wear that will show them during the course of the game that their hydration level is getting low, they can properly hydrate themselves, or at least attempt to, you know what I mean, without having to be sent to the locker room and all that other stuff. So, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. All right, moving right along. Let's talk about the Super Bowl that's coming up. Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta on Sunday. This is an interesting game. You got one team who is there, and you were just talking about the call but the call would probably not be there. But absent the call, did what they had to do to win.
Right.
And, came up with the big plays. And so, in terms of that, and again, my philosophy, and I think you might agree with that, is that we just don't allow one play, allow the excuse that one play decided the entire game. So
I agree with that.
That's just kind of how it goes. And you have to have that philosophy. As a matter of fact, the commissioner did his State of the NFL address today, and he didn't really say much in terms of anything that you could really grab hold to, especially relative to that. He said this is a game, a human game run by humans, officiated by humans, and so you will have mistakes, and that's what it was. And it's the only thing I can say, and also in their defense, is that at some particular point, I wasn't sure where the ball was, whether the ball had actually got to them, was about to get to them, and that's why they kind of left it alone. I keep thinking bang, bang. That ball came out quick. It was on him. He hit him. There's no doubt about it. But let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Ball's coming to the receiver. If the player gets to the receiver at the same time the ball gets there and hits them, that's not pass interference, right?
When you say at the same time, if the defender gets there at the same time as the ball,
right,
and hits him,
right,
okay. If he hits him when the ball hits the receiver's hands, that's not pass interference. To me, that would be getting there and hitting him at the same time the ball arrives.
Okay.
If he touches him before the ball is catchable, before the ball gets there, that is pass interference.
Now, if the ball gets behind either player and then they collide, then what?
Behind or beyond?
Well, let's go with beyond for since you brought it up.
If the ball goes beyond both players before the players hit, that's nothing. That's no call.
Okay. All right. I just had that, I'm looking at it because it was really funny. I've seen that play from so many different angles, and I just have a hard time placing the ball as before or beyond, depending on the angle that I looked at. So it made me sympathize with having to see that thing happen in real time as fast as those things happen.
Right. But if you notice by some of the pictures, some of the still shots that have been shown from different angles, there was a referee there, right there. Like he was really close. He was within, I don't want to guess how close he was. You could clearly see he was right there where the players were. So now we're watching on television, and this is before we saw 2,000 replays in real time watching the game. You and I both went, I know I did. I was like, oh, what the? And I think most people did too. How come that guy that was 10 feet away didn't?
Well, that's the question, and I'm not going to beat that up too much, but I'm just saying, the more I looked at it, it didn't help me much because my perception of how far that ball was, and just, again, doesn't say I think that they were right. I simply empathize a bit with the speed of that play, and
right, and that's what they're blaming it on. That's the first thing they said when they were confronted at this meeting that they went to.
Huh?
This meeting that the referees went to, when they go over with the head of the refs, when they go over questionable calls in games, even during the regular season, they have these meetings. So they had this meeting with and the first thing they said was it was a bang bang play.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so give you the benefit of the doubt, even though you were closer than all the million other people watching the game, maybe your angle where you were standing, you thought perhaps at the time of the hit that the pass was going to be caught. But I don't care where you were standing. It was ball, defender, receiver, sideline, in that order. The receiver tried to run beyond the DB, reached his hand out for the ball, and the guy hit him. And then the ball sailed by. But the bottom line is, even if it was too much of a bang-bang play, if the ref blinked, if he got distracted for a nanosecond, okay, there was blatant helmet-to-helmet, and I mean, it was a solid helmet-to-helmet hit. he could not ignore that.
But they did.
I don't care.
They did.
Even if the ball was there, even if the receiver had the ball, that hit should have been penalized.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the actual Super Bowl. And let's talk about it again by the numbers. We look at things net point wise. The net points is based on points for and points against. So we're going to look at those two categories. But we're going to start out with turnover differential. Now, when I calculated this information, Ben, I took the calculations through to the conference championships.
So this is the entire season.
So that's the entire season, division and conference championships.
Got it.
For these teams. And when it all calculated out in terms of turnover differential, they both came in at plus 10.
Great.
So there's no obvious advantage there right off the bat. Anything to say about that?
No, I think that's great.
Okay. Now, this is the disturbing figure as far as I'm concerned. And we'll talk a little bit about more about this when we go to points for. But as you can see, there's a pretty strong differential in terms of points against. That's your defense. And we were talking about the season and how the offenses dominated during the season, but now we're in the postseason. And now we're looking at defense again and taking it into account very seriously. And the Patriots have an obvious advantage in that favor in terms of the way they played through the season and through the playoffs.
Yeah, numbers-wise, that's true. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can look at this. But from my estimation, after having watched both these teams in several games over the course of the season, I believe that the Rams were having a bit of a tough time getting their whole team defense playing well together. They were very poor against the run for most of the regular season. People are talking about Ndamukong Suh. I remember watching games where the guy was invisible. And, you know, at this point, they're in the Super Bowl, so none of that really matters. The problem is the Patriots have been fairly solid to pretty good over the course of the season, where the Rams seem to be just now starting to really get themselves together. And the last time I made that statement about a team, it was the Kansas City Chiefs.
Chiefs, I know.
And they're at home. They're home right now watching on TV like us. So,
well, you said it, you know, that doesn't really mean anything. Well, it calculates into the net points, into the points again.
Oh, no, the numbers are real. The numbers are real. There's no doubt about that. I'm just talking about the eye test.
The Rams finished week 17 ranked 20th in the league. The Chiefs ranked 24th. So everything that you're saying really adds up through the numbers.
Yep.
In terms of what they've done. And that's why I was saying it's so scary, you know, to see that, you know, in terms of the Rams. However, points for, the Rams look really strong.
Scary strong?
Huh?
You used the word scary when we were talking about points against. I said, are they scary strong?
Well, I don't think they're as scary strong. Now, this is a pretty big differential, okay?
It's sizable.
But I'll tell you the reason that I don't think it's scary strong, and that's this. I don't know if I can show this to you. Let's see if we can if I can show this to you on my page. This is the graph of the Rams in terms of their net points on a game-by-game basis. And I wrote a pretty big piece or wrote a piece on this But you see where the bars are the highest?
Yeah.
Do you notice the teams that they're highest against?
Use your cursor so you can help me out.
Well, let's start here.
There you go.
That is
The Cardinals.
Cardinals. That is
The Niners.
that is
The Cardinals. Okay, I see where you're going.
So the whole concept here was, and you can go to Sterling Net Point Power Rankings on Facebook to read that article. But my point that I was making there is that there's quality net points.
Well, now
And you see that when they came up against better competition,
the bar was really low.
Really low.
Really low. Yeah.
Really low.
Now, I would venture to guess if he had made one of those for the Patriots, you might see some similar things, but you would also see that there weren't a whole bunch of really low ones. In other words, people will argue that they play the Jets and the Dolphins and the Bills, you know? So,
yeah, the Patriots were more apt to outscore you and have a higher scoring game. They were scoring in the 20s and 30s and things of that nature on a more consistent basis, but they didn't have the big blowouts net point wise.
you're talking about the Rams.
I'm talking about the Patriots. They tended to score in that 20 to 30 point range.
Right, but they didn't give up a lot.
But they gave up. Well, they gave up a little bit more. What happened with the Rams again was that they had big blowouts where they kept the team really down, you know. But then they
also had some high scoring close games.
Right. So it's kind of weird, but I didn't see the big differentials as much between the Patriots and their teams.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody kind of scored. So the Patriots, as you can see, didn't give up a lot of points, whereas the Rams kind of, like, even when they played my Niners, I think the second time my Niners scored like a lot of points on them. You know, they lost the game.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If all of a sudden your defense wakes up, who's to say they won't take another nap? I mean,
that's the question.
Talking about the Rams like, oh my God, they're so good. Talib is this, and what's the other corner's name? That dude, he talks a nice little game.
Aqib Talib?
No, not Talib. The other corner. I'm
for the Rams. You got
blank right now.
Roby.
I'm not talking about Roby. Roby opened his fat mouth and gave the Patriots bulletin board material. I'm talking about.
You're talking about Peters?
Yes. He's an accident waiting to happen. He's a risk taker. He has wonderful physical skills, speed, jumping ability, hands, all that. Okay, but he's a risk taker. I don't think his footwork is the greatest. And that may sound funny to people listening to this. Here's this guy sitting home in his little man cave talking about footwork of a professional football player. But the bottom line is, if you really, really watch a game and just like watch one guy, you see what I mean.
Okay.
These guys are such great athletes that they cut corners sometimes. And the way the rules and things are set up for training camps and things like that, they don't have a lot of time to work on technique stuff like you can with a high school kid or a college kid. And they lose some of their fundamentals. And when you lose some of your fundamentals, even though you're a professional athlete, that guy that you're trying to stop from catching the pass, he's one too. And that gets him in trouble. But
which cornerback was it that committed the penalty that didn't get called?
The guy that shot his mouth out about Brady getting old. Nickel. That his name? Is his name actually Nickel? He's a nickelback.
He might be one of the substitution backs. Okay.
No, you just said his name.
I said Roby. I said Peters. Talib.
And
Aqib Talib is the one who mainly shoots off his mouth. You got Johnson and Joyner as strong and free safety.
No, Roby.
Roby.
Yeah, what's his whole name?
First initial was N.
Nikel. His name's Nikel.
Nikel.
He has a hyphenated name, Nikel something Roby.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the one that said age has affected Brady. He's also the one that committed the penalty that wasn't called. Same guy.
Okay. Interesting. Moving forward to net points, you can see that based on net points, the Rams have 154. The Patriots have 130. So as we move toward looking at the comparison to come up with the bias plus there, it's easy for people to see how we do that now. It's no big secret. The bias is the difference in net points between the two teams that are competing, and the difference, we have a turnover differential. So NP stands for net points, TOD stands for turnover differential, and the bias, you have a bias for both of them. The turnover differential was 0, then for the two teams, the bias. And the bias in terms of net points goes toward the Rams at 24, which gives the Rams a bias plus score of 24. So the Rams, and now I hear that Vegas is favoring the Patriots.
Really? Did you happen to hear what the spread was?
It started changing. So I think it started with the Rams and then went to the Patriots.
What?
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it happened. People can check it out. I'm not a gambling expert, but the bias right now, as far as we're concerned, goes with the Rams. Now, last week in your rant, you kind of asked me to make some picks. And
yeah. Did you keep track of that?
No, actually I didn't. Who did I pick?
I got them written down somewhere. They're not handy right now.
Okay, well, let's assume I was 100% right, because I would love to assume that.
Right. What it was I gave you the different scenarios. I said,
yeah, that's why it's hard to remember, because we had
if it's the Saints and the Chiefs, who do you take? And I went over every scenario, and this was one of them.
And I said Rams.
Did you?
At some particular point, I know you threw it out there, and I said Rams. I think it was against the Chiefs, however.
Yeah, I think you picked Rams over Chiefs.
Rams over Chiefs.
But Rams over Patriots, I'm not sure what you said.
Well, I'm not sure either. But let's go over to some things that I think the Patriots are going to have to do to overcome that bias plus score of 24.
Okay.
So these are the three things that I think will have to happen. One, they're going to have to win the pocket/release battle, and I'm going to go into that a little more deeply in a minute. Number two, and this is where I kind of lean toward the Patriots, and that is they're going to have to win the line of scrimmage audible battle. And what that means is this: when these guys walk up to the line of scrimmage, they have, they can call different things. And I don't think anybody, of the two quarterbacks, I think Brady is the best at that. Walking up to the line of scrimmage, seeing what's there, moving his people around toward where the leverage is in the Patriots' favor, and calling that within a very short period of time. So he has the ability to walk up, recognize what's going on, and make those adjustments. Now, I'm not saying Goff doesn't, but I think Goff is a little more tied to the play than Brady is. What do you think about that?
I believe, in essence, you are correct about Goff being tied to the play. However, again, I was watching a program. Peyton Manning does something. I think it's on ESPN Plus. It's streaming on there. It's a show called Detail.
Okay.
Kobe did one for the NBA, and now Peyton Manning is doing one for the NFL.
Right.
And he brought up the point about the crowd noise and how Goff handled it. and where he had to like go up and down the line and say things right in guys' ears.
Did a great job of that.
And he did a really great job of that. But he also pointed out that most of the time, McVay stays in his ear for as long as possible. So a lot of those changes are not necessarily – I'm not saying he can't look at the defense and call an audible. I'm sure he does. But McVay does most of that work for him.
Okay.
He's going to change plays up.
A great point.
He'll say it.
That's a great point. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to come back to this so you can see what I was talking about relative to the pocket release battle. So I did some research. Tom Brady gets rid of the ball on an average of 2.51 seconds. As a result, he only faces pressures from the defensive line about 19.6 or at 19.6% of the time. So it's about 1/5 of the time is when he's really getting pressured. We know that he really hasn't been touched much at all. And people talk about, one quarterback versus the other quarterback, but the quarterback really doesn't go against the other quarterback. He goes against the defense.
Right.
And on defense, Aaron Donald beats his blocks in an average of 2.5 seconds. And this includes the 60.5% of the time when he's being double teamed. He's still beating his blocks, including double teams, in about 2.5 seconds.
So that means that 60.5% of the time he is double teamed?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And he's beating all of those blocks in an average of 2.5 seconds.
Okay.
His pass rush win rate, which is the number of times that the player beats blocks within that time period, is an NFL best 38.8% of the time. So the bottom line is Brady's only experiencing pressure less than 20% of the time. Donald is putting pressure on the quarterback about 40% of the time. So that's the battle right there that I think is going to be most intriguing, because we all know none of these quarterbacks like that pressure up the middle, and that's exactly where Aaron Donald is doing it, which is another reason why he's so great. He's not coming off the edge or nothing like that. He's beating this thing up the A-gaps, and he's beating it on, almost 40% of the time. So who's going to win that battle? If Brady stays within his normal 20% pressure rate, and as we talked about, he's able to go up and take more advantage of the Rams defensive line than what Goff is, that really, I think, bodes well for a Patriot win. Those are a couple things that they're going to have to deal with in order to win. Now, the last thing that I have is that if all else fails, you can always Gronk them. I mean, that's what happens when they're coming down the stretch. It's money time. They know they have a built-in mismatch somewhere on that field, wherever Gronk is, and that's when they start moving him around and isolating him on some much smaller D-back, much slower linebacker, much smaller and slower, or just about as fast safety. And that's kind of like the secret weapon. Gronk didn't do a whole bunch against the Chiefs till it was like, okay, let's go down and win this game time. And next thing you know, Gronk's a part of that battle. So that's kind of some of the things that I think the Patriots will have to do to overcome what the Rams are going to come at them with. The Rams have two great rushers, two really good rushers. Now we don't know what's going on with Gurley based on what was happening last week when he was spending more time on the bike than he was on the field. but I expect Gurley to be a big part of whatever. And he says he's ready. C.J. Anderson has been a great find, and he's ready. When I looked at some of the statistics, what I noticed based on the last game, couple things. We talk about turnovers. One of my favorite statistics is third down efficiency, because that is a turnover down. The Rams were 38% last week. The Patriots were 69% last week.
That's being successful on third down?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an extremely important stat. Extremely important.
Again, a turnover.
Third down efficiency is extremely important in a game.
It really ties into that time of possession. Last week, the Rams had the ball for 32 minutes and 36 seconds. The Patriots had the ball for 43 minutes and 59 seconds.
Right.
So they tend to control the ball. They have a run game also. That's one of the ironies about this, is that we talk so much about the quarterbacks, but these are both two run-centric teams now.
Well, the Patriots for sure. They use their running backs in a bunch of different ways, but they really do try to run the rock, no doubt about it. And they try to get that established right away. And they
you don't think so for the Rams?
Well, the Rams are tricky. I think the Rams come at you in a more diverse way. I don't think they lean heavy. I think they let game flow kind of dictate what they lean heaviest on. If they feel like they got a team that they know they can dominate on the offensive line, then they'll run the ball quite a bit. If they don't think they have a clear advantage, then they'll mix things up, because you gotta protect your play action when you need it. So you have to run the ball, but they'll also throw the ball to their backs, especially Gurley, quite a bit. He's great out in space. If they're dominating that way, then they'll just keep it up. I mean, you got to every time he goes out into the flat, every time he takes a fake handoff, steps through the line, and turns around for a little hook or shoots out into the flat, he's trouble. So they make sure that you have that to deal with also. Where the Patriots can do the same thing, but they really want to pound you. Like, if you look at I had the stats here. I think Sony Michel had 27 carries last week. That's a lot.
You bring up a great point. Total rushing plays for the Rams last week, 26.
Mm-hmm.
Total rushing plays for the Patriots last week, 48. Okay,
that's run-centric. That's run-centric. That's what they do. And they make sure when it gets close yardage, we're going to pound it. We're going to pound it. And if it's really close, I'll just send Brady over the top or sneak him, or you know what I mean? We can do this to you in a whole bunch of ways. So you can't say, well, we'll just drop back and protect against Brady beating us on and through the air. They'll run right up your behind. Like, you can't do that. And if you stack the box for Michelle, they'll just pull him out and put in James White, who can run between the tackles, run outside, and catch passes, and line up out wide and catch passes.
That's kind of you think about it. One of the ways that a defense, or an offense plays defense is by keeping the other offense on the sideline.
Exactly.
With that time of possession, that ball control and things of that nature. Exactly. So all of that extra offense, even with the less quality scoring, as far as I'm concerned, that's what the Rams really have to be, aware of.
It amounts to long drives and at least 3 points minimum.
Right.
So
right. Exactly.
I mean, I can't even think of the Patriots punter's name. Like, They don't punt a lot. I'm just saying. They don't do that. So if it sounds like I'm leaning toward the Patriots, yeah, that's what it sounds like right now. But let's continue.
It's funny because I'm almost leaning toward the Patriots because, again, questioning the quality points as I had, I'm like, you really have to take all of that into account. And then again, when all else fails, you got Gronk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Brady, I'm looking forward to this to see, you got the fastest to the quarterback in 2.5 seconds and the fastest release in 2.5 seconds. Man, things are going to be popping.
Well, I mean, if all these numbers hold true, which they're going to vary, of course, but if they were to kind of run as projected, Brady would still come out on top because beating a block does not always equate a sack.
Right.
You could probably say it counts as a hurry, but a hurry to me is when the quarterback is under actual duress, where he moves off of his spot, rolls out, drops back further. That's pressure to me. Just breaking through the line, he's supposed to throw it before he gets hit. That's what they do. So again, Brady can get it off in 2.51, and Aaron Donald comes through there at 2.5, then that 0.1 is the ball's gone.
Well, that's one that 0.1 goes against Brady, but again, like you said,
right, but it's going to take 0.1 to get to Brady.
Got to the quarterback.
Right.
And Brady is one thing we know is that he works so well in the pocket that you can beat your blocks, but he'll leverage a step in the right direction.
Right.
Which means you have to change directions to get back to him and by that time the ball's gone. So and then the other thing, if you were to compare the brain trusts, head coach, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, do you see either team having an advantage?
Full brain trust, or are we comparing head coaches?
Full brain trust. I think you have to look at the full brain trust at this point.
Full brain trust, I would, again, lean toward the Patriots. Everybody's talking about Sean McVay, the little genius. Oh, every coach, every owner in the league is trying to get that young, fiery, offensive-minded guy to run his team. That's all well and good. I think McVay is great. He calls his own plays, and their offense is real scary. They do a lot of stuff. That all is coming out of his little brain there. So I can't, poo-poo his efforts to on the offensive side of the ball, at least. But Mr. Belichick, who people love to say is a defensive coach, he's a football coach, okay? And that kid McDaniels, and I call him a kid because he looks like he's 20. He's not old, but he ain't that young. He's been with him for a long time. He knows what he likes. He knows what he wants, and he knows Tom Brady. He knows Tom, and Josh McDaniels calls the plays for the Patriots. Belichick does not. Him and Brady they up here for years. For years. So I have to lean toward the Patriots.
So,
although my man Wade Phillips, I love Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator for the Rams. I love Wade Phillips. Didn't make it as a head coach, but man, that guy's put together some nice defenses. He really has. The defensive coach of the Patriots, Mr. Flores, his name's popped up for some head coaching jobs.
Okay.
So again, here we go. And the Patriots are known for having a long line of good defensive coordinators. Matt Patricia, Vrabel wasn't a coach, but he's a head coach now and ran the defense when he was a player. There's a lot. This is going to be one good game, man. It's going to be a good game.
The Rams, we talked about the Rams defensively ranking 20th. at the end of the regular season, the Patriots ranked 7th.
Yep.
At the end of the regular season. So I understand exactly what you're saying there. So you're going against the bias, or you're going with the bias? What you doing?
Yeah, when it's all said and done, I'm not going to pussyfoot around with it, man. I'm going against the bias. I'm going with the Patriots.
Going with the Patriots, going against the bias.
I'm going to go with the Patriots, but I have to say, I hear what people are saying about the Rams, their youth, their athleticism across the board, and McVay and his play calling. All of those are big time positives for them. I just think Belichick's going to do his thing and out scheme you some kind of way. The team with the best talent don't always win. And if you go man for man, talent-wise, you would probably say the Rams win this game. But more to it.
One of the areas that I question here, and let me throw a couple names at you.
Okay.
For the Rams, linebacker, C. Littleton, M. Barron. For the Patriots, at linebacker, D. Hightower, K. Van Noy.
Okay, Van Noy and Hightower are nice. They've been there for a while. They know the defense. They know exactly what Belichick expects of them. Barron, I believe that's you said M. Barron. I think that's Mark Barron. I know him because I believe he played at Florida State. And, I'm a Seminoles fan, so I remember him being there. He was highly touted coming in. I think he was a pass rusher by trade early on, and they moved him to like an outside linebacker. The linebacker of note for the Rams is Dante Fowler, the guy they picked up in a trade or something in mid-season or somewhere along the line from, I want to say Jacksonville. He's the noisemaker with the linebackers.
They have him listed as the Will.
Right. That's the weak side linebacker.
Weak side linebacker.
Right. He's the guy that'll come off the edge on you. They're going to have to account for him. They're going to have to account for him. He's a dangerous pass rusher, and he can cover. But him pass rushing off the edge, that's his thing. So they want to tie you up in the middle with Sue and Donald and bring him hard off the edge.
The reason I'm mentioning it is because, as we know, like with the Patriots not having the high-profile, wideouts, they throw a lot to their backs. They throw a lot to their slot, and so I'm those linebackers are going to be busy. And they've been the Rams were giving up a lot of runs up the middle early on.
Right.
Don't know if Sue's ready to do that part to really stop that, but that's where the Patriots like to go, right at you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was wondering, are these Rams linebackers going to be able to cover with whatever Brady's throwing at them in terms of a subterfuge, and be able to be there to support that run that is coming at you. So
the Patriots' offensive line is one of the better offensive lines in the league. Okay, they're top 3 as far as an offensive line is concerned. If anybody can nobody can fully handle Aaron Donald. If he wants to get in, he's probably going to get in, but he's going to need help. And again, they haven't proven to me in one game that they're going to be able to stop the Patriots' run game. They just haven't. I don't – Sony Michel is a tough runner with some speed to him. James White is your scat back, but not quite a scat back. He's better than, say, a Sproles or trying to think of guys that aren't real big. He's a Wisconsin kid. He catches the ball. He has excellent hands. So once he's in the game, that's what's really going to have them linebackers questioning what's going on. and they're going to have to really have been in their film study and watching formations to try to figure out, are they going to run White or are they going to throw it to him? Michelle, they don't throw to a lot. They also have another back, Rex Burkhead. When they get around the goal line, Burkhead's coming in. I got Burkhead in fantasy. He's the third string back, but guess what? He scored 2 touchdowns last week. So
Burkhead, you got to watch Burkhead because they'll put him in a route deep on you.
Exactly. They will.
And he catches the ball. That's why I was saying these linebackers are going to be busy. They're going to have to cover.
That's a problem.
Stop that run.
These people are looking at the Rams saying, oh, they got this guy and they got this guy and they got this guy. But I think they're going to have some matchup issues. They're going to have some matchup issues. And the Patriots will too, no doubt about it. Robert Woods and Cooks are going to be hard to handle. But the Patriots defense plays better as a unit than the Rams defense, in my estimation. And they will be able to scheme out and cover up what the Rams do best through the air. I'm not saying nothing about Gurley. Gurley could go bananas. They may not have an answer for that.
I'm wondering about, again, about Gurley and again, even in terms of just, it's at that time of the season when it's at the end. Some people's legs are, aren't as fresh as other people's legs.
That could be.
Which is one of the reasons that having C.J. Anderson was so important.
Yeah.
All right, you're going with the Patriots, and again, a 24, a bias score of 24 at the end of 19, 20 games or so.
Yeah,
is pretty much almost nothing. It's almost equal to 0. It's less than one a game. So, and that's even in terms of net points, 1 point something per game differential. So it's really, really small, and the matchups are going to be everything. And you always, I remember going back to a number of Super Bowls and talking about them with you. And that's why I have my eye on that defensive line, offensive matchup, that line matchups, because this is the time of season when that really makes a big difference. You go back to the Vikings. I remember them talking about the Vikings losing all of those Super Bowls because they had linemen who could rush, but couldn't stop the run in a power game. They were too light,
Right.
And so that was just the strategy. Let's just run it down their throats because we know that's where their weakness is, and that just happened. So, all righty. Well, we're just about near the end. Do you have any rants?
No, I don't really have any real rants. The Vegas spread right now, and it could change again, has the Patriots favored by 2.5, which I think is that's basically a pick 'em. I mean, a field goal wins that bet either way.
Yeah.
So, it's that close. I think the over-under is 56. So they're expecting fireworks.
Well, I'll go into mine then, where I'll share some information. So last week we had the Pro Bowl, and the Pro Bowl is such a joke that people just kind of really went by it. And I saw some stuff on Twitter about it, and no one is really happy. So
wait. The stuff on Twitter about the Pro Bowl was complaints about the game?
A lot of it. You'd be surprised.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
I mean, the quintessential statement is, why don't they just play touch or flag rather?
Yeah, the little bit that I flipped channels back and forth and looked at, I didn't. I flipped channels and looking back at the replay of the game. And I saw very few guys get tackled to the ground. In fact, it's almost like it was a rule you can't tackle to the ground. It looked like training camp tackling, where they would body up and wrap, and if they wrapped you, you just stop running.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's like a
it's
mutual agreement.
so as I looked at it and listened to listen to him talk about it, the number one complaint or the reason that there's any questions about what's how the game is played has to do with risk, the major risk of injury, and how that's going to affect their contracts, especially with these Pro Bowl players. These guys make an estimated average of about $15 million a piece. So when you're
For
talking
the game.
about, I'm sorry,
For the game?
no, I'm talking about for their contracts.
Oh, okay.
So when you're talking about Pro Bowlers and all stars, these are the top guys in the league. So if
I
you're
got you.
looking at a Aaron Rodgers, if you're looking at except for the rookies who played really well, and MVP was who was our boy Mahomes, right?
I don't even know.
Mahomes was MVP. And I think he threw a no look pass in there, which I don't even know if he completed, but I think everybody got super excited.
So we're taking all these guys that make the Pro Bowl and average up their annual salaries to about 15 million.
That's what I'm looking at. Now,
Okay.
the average salary across the NFL is about 1.9 million, based on the research that I found and it was produced in 2018, which meant it probably didn't include 2018. But 1.9 million as an average salary. The average, the Pro Bowl, I say average Pro Bowl, but really the winning team on the Pro Bowl made 64,000. The losers made 32,000. So I guess I shouldn't say average there, but that's what the Pro Bowl.
That's what each player made.
Right, 64,000. So obviously that 64,000 was not enough for them to risk any major injuries.
Right.
Okay. Now, the total owner net worth, I looked that up because the question is, could my solution be affordable? And when you add up their net worth, it's plus $70 billion. So that's the owner's net worth. So they're paying out 64,000, which is a pittance compared to their net worth. It's about half of the average salary, but most of those guys that are making that average salary are not in the Pro Bowl.
Right.
So, it's a little, it's a little offsetting, I realize, but, if you are, let's say, a rookie on a rookie contract, 64 might look pretty good. You have a future. You look at Saquon, for example, when he finally does sign his, gets out of that rookie contract, I can't imagine what they're going to have to pay him. But my solution is to raise the pot to about $100 million and have the All-Stars play the All-Pros for that winning pot. Because everybody has a number. What number is going to that would incent these guys to go out there and play to win the game and not have to worry about their contracts. That's why insurance is included in there. So you would pay out, have a winning pot of $100 million, and insure these guys' contracts, which would save a lot of money. You wouldn't have to worry about paying it out your own pocket if they happen to get injured. But they have to be paid enough for them to want to risk injury. And I believe that would make the All-Star versus Pro Bowler game a serious draw. I mean, people would want to see the best of the best go at it for real. Let me ask you, what about you? Would you like to see the best of the best in the NFL go at it for serious big money?
First of all, if you take the all pros and separate them from the other all stars, I don't know that it would look so great because you got to remember, and here's two more things in math that I think you should do. If the team that wins the Pro Bowl, if each player gets $64K, and I'm just going to say off the top of my head, each Pro Bowl team has a minimum of 35 guys.
There's actually 88 guys in the Pro Bowl.
Total.
44,
That's 44 per team, so I was close. So you take your 64K times 44. That's your winning pot as it is now.
Right.
Then do your division of 100 million.
They're only spending they're spending less than $5 million right now.
Less than 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Less than 5.
So a total pot of 100 million. How much is subtracting from that for insurance?
Insurance would be extra.
Oh,
Again,
they tack that on top of it. So the winning pot is 100 million.
Winning pot is 100 million. There's insurance policies to
44?
cover these guys' contracts.
Yeah, if we divide that by 44, that's a heck of a lot more money.
Heck of a lot more money.
Right. But in order to get 44 All-Pros, you have to have the All-Pro first and second team. Now you're diluting your All-Stars.
Well, that's, you
want it to be a competitive game. If they're going to play hard, right?
Well, again, you've got 44. Again, you got 88 total. Okay. Now, All-Stars and All-Pros have a crossover. A lot of times the All-Pros are on the All-Star team. The difference is that the All-Stars are chosen by the writers, right?
The All-Stars are chosen by the fans and the players.
No, the All-Pros. The Pro Bowl is chosen by the fans.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
All-Stars.
So the All-Stars are chosen by the media.
We have All-Pros.
A mixture of fans.
We have All-Pros and Pro Bowlers. So the All-Pros are selected by the writers.
Right. I'm calling the All-Pros All-Stars. So,
right.
So that's writers.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's why I said All-Pros and Pro Bowlers.
Okay.
The Pro Bowl is a game.
Right. The Pro Bowl is a game.
The All-Pros.
The people in the Pro Bowl get picked by fans,
the other players,
and
the coaches.
Yes. So the All-Stars and the All-Pros are sort of picked by different people, and it sort of pits those groups against each other.
Yeah, but it's going to be a crossover. Every All-Pro is going to be worthy of being in the Pro Bowl.
Well, first of all, I would say that the All-Pros, right, would be one team. And then the Pro Bowlers would have to be a different group of people that would be picked by fans, et cetera, et cetera. So
just like it is.
Huh?
Just like it is now.
Well, but right now, some of your Pro Bowlers are also All-Pros.
That's right.
That wouldn't happen in this game. There would be a different group of people who would be Pro Bowlers.
I doubt that there would be
All-Pros.
I doubt that there would be an All-Pro that would not be selected to go to the Pro Bowl.
Well, he wouldn't be able to in this particular scenario because you can't play on both teams.
I understand that, but we're all working off of one list, one NFL list. So if you want your All-Pro team that's going to play in this game, who's going to pick them?
Same people,
the writers. So once the writers pick their starters and backups of All-Pros, what they always do, you have now depleted the rest of the players that you can use to play against them. So
the word deplete is one way to look at it, but let's say, for example, you got two quarterbacks that are picked in the all-star team, right? So that might be Brady and Rodgers. Okay. Well, Rodgers might not even make it because it might have wound up being Brady and Mahomes.
Most likely it would.
So now you have a nice range of quarterbacks to pick from for the Pro Bowlers.
Yes, you do.
So it ain't completely depleted.
Not when you talk about quarterbacks, but when you start talking about offensive and defensive lines, it will.
I don't know. I mean, you got 32 teams.
You're trying to make this into a real game. You want the game to be competitive.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's going to be a runaway, like, oh, they'll never beat them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you're going to fill out a 44-man roster, you're taking the top 44 players in the league and putting them on one team. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not against it.
No, I understand. I understand. Your job is to question it, and I'm not saying that this is a finished proposal, but I'm just saying 2 points. Number one, raise the money, make it worth going out there and playing football.
And I think that's a great idea. I don't think it'll ever happen, but I think it's a great idea. Tell me this: when do you play this game?
Oh, it would have to be after the Super Bowl.
It would have to be after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and we're talking at least 2 weeks.
I would say so, yes. Absolutely.
At least 2 weeks. So, I mean, I can't imagine how much more excited. When we already seen the Super Bowl, we already freaked out, got your new champions and everything. And see, as a Madden guy, we actually have this built into the game.
Right.
Where, you can play the All-Stars. I think there's two groups. Everybody's like rated 99.
Right.
And there's enough to have two real teams.
Okay.
So there's a lot of talent. I mean, you like I said, we didn't even include Rodgers. So your Pro Bowler might be Rodgers and Luck.
Right. Could be.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't have any problem when it comes to quarterbacks. That's easy.
You got a lot of good running backs.
The other positions.
Saquon might be on the Pro Bowlers. He might not make the All-Pro, but then again, maybe he did. So, your concern is line. We'd have to go through it a little more, but that's my solution is let's make it a big money game that's going to draw interest from across the world because everybody's going to see the best of the best going at it and really coming at it as hard as they did in the Super Bowl. That's what has to happen. I don't see any other way to get them to play. Other than that, it's going to devolve into a flag game.
The only real incentive is the money, though.
Well, what up? Hey, Ben, why do we do it?
For the money. I understand that. But I'm saying there's no bragging rights. There's
no bragging rights.
Bragging rights.
Shoot, when you walk away with the majority of $100 million, there's some serious bragging rights there, baby.
That's not bragging rights. That's money.
That's money also bragging rights.
That I won more money than you.
We beat the All-Pros, or the All-Pros beat the Pro Bowlers.
Nah, man.
Anytime you win a game, you got rights to brag.
They don't care about that.
They will. You put enough money up.
Next year, they could be on the other team.
Could be.
There's no loyalty factor. There's no loyalty factor. There's no in the game the way it is now. There's a loyalty factor.
Loyalty to what? The AFC and the NFC?
To your conference. That's right. That's what ball players do. They need something to hang on to. They like to belong to something. That's why, people are so astonished about the NBA and these guys jumping teams. That hurts people. Like, oh, that's my team. That they need that. If it's just for the money and they're willing to do it just for the money, okay, fine. I just think
that you bring up an interesting point between NFC and AFC. But long story short,
that's like the year they did that draft. That was the worst ever. You had NFC and AFC guys mixed up. Remember that? They picked coaches and then they drafted guys.
Yeah, that lasted for maybe three Pro Bowls, and that was bad. But again, part of the reason it was bad is because they're not playing football in the first place. You know,
that's always going to be part of the reason.
So the quality of the game, of the quality of the product is so low. That was just that was more of a gimmick to try to add some sizzle to what turned out to not even be steak at all.
But one of the things that it did was it took away the camaraderie. It took away the sense of team. It took away from, let's do this for the conference. Let's do this for. They ain't got nothing to do it for.
Well,
everybody's all over. That goes away, and that goes away.
I don't know if I again, camaraderie versus 100 million. Gladiators are going to come out.
You're missing my point. I have no problem with the money.
I understand your point. Your point has to do with
play for money.
NFC, AFC.
They should play for money, but there's other aspects of the sport that will disappear.
Well, that might be true.
This type of format.
That might be true. That might be true, but I don't know. If you get a serious, hard-hitting game, then I think that it has promise, and so that's pretty much it. So, okay, there's my solution to the conundrums. Put up 100 million. Let's figure out a way to come up with two different teams, Pro Bowlers, All Pros, and let's make it such that people really want to see that game, and they're really looking forward to, a real clash of the Titans. And so that's kind of where we are there. So, Benny, that pretty much ends it. I do want to throw one little tidbit out there that I heard. 77% of the Clemson African-American players turned down the visit to the White House. Did you know that?
That is correct.
I didn't know that. I thought that was absolutely amazing.
I think the number was 15 Black players that did go. Most of them were freshmen and sophomores who were, and this isn't a fact, who were rumored to possibly have gone because they felt pressure because they're going to be on the team again. They're looking for starting spots after the seniors leave. They didn't want any repercussions of not going because they're still going to be in school next year and back on the team. And their lack of political sophistication. So any one or all of those reasons is why they went. But the upperclassmen chose not to go. So when you look back at the whole fast food thing, that's just, it just makes this fiasco even worse. Like when I didn't hear too much negative stuff about the fast food thing after the media sort of kind of tried to hype it up a little bit, like, can you believe it? He got no class. He bought them fast food. I was thinking about the Black players. I wasn't thinking about the one guy they interviewed, the quarterback, who's barely 19.
Right.
Probably eats like that all the damn time. You know what I mean? He thought it was great. It was great, man. They had Big Macs and everything. I'm thinking about them Black guys like, how did y'all really feel about this? I want to talk to y'all. But guess what? Turns out I don't get to talk to them because they didn't go.
Well, the one thing the guy was saying, and if you look at most of the people that were there, like you said, they weren't the real players anyway. They weren't the guys who really were on the field winning that national championship.
They're undeclared. They're freshmen, backups. Because I understood they supposed to take the entire team. A college football team at a big-time college can be 100+ players, plus the coaching staff.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't want to buy that many burgers.
Nah, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't have wanted that.
Well, okay. That was my last word. Anything else? We're going to go through a little bit of our social media real quick. Let's do that because we wanted to make sure that people knew where to find us. think I left off at my social media, so let's close that down. But I will mention that you can find the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings at Sterling NPPR on Facebook. In addition, you can find Ben and Barry on football at BBOF on Facebook. And we, again, as I always say, we like to share some of the good information, some of the good things that the NFL players are doing, especially in the minority community. Apparently, C.J. Anderson was helping kids, opening door for kids before he got that fateful call to come back to the Rams. And so he even when he wasn't actually playing, he was still making a contribution to the community. And then on our Twitter page at B&B on Football, we always like to, again, share that information. We share that there. It's funny. I actually spoke back to Good Morning Football. They were doing a show where they were talking about all the different names for Saquon.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, hey, look, all those names you guys are coming up, most of them had to do with his legs,
Saquad.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty corny, and I let them know that, we call Saquon the gift. And the reason we call him the gift is we chose that game before the draft when we were talking about what the Giants were going to do. And we said, if they choose Saquon, it will be a gift to Eli Manning that'll extend his career. And that's why we call him the gift. And then we found out later that he is like one of the nicest people. So he would be a gift to anybody's team. And had an absolutely fantastic year. So those are some of our social media that you can find. And you can find that social media at www.benandbarryonfootball.com. And we gave you the Twitter handles and the Facebook handles. So, Ben, that pretty much wraps it up. Any last words?
Are we going to do a post Super Bowl next week?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Well, that's something to look forward to. We'll be watching the game closely. Did you get to watch any of the shenanigans the first 2 days where they were interviewing everybody?
I watched some of it. I think probably the thing that amazes me is still Rams coach photographic memory.
Okay. All right. I'm that's starting to wear thin on me now.
But wait, this guy remembers plays from high school.
High school, I know.
And showing him, he's like calling the play from high school. I'm trying to remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
I know.
So when we were talking about brain trust, I'm like, you have the genius schemer schemers on the Patriot side. Not saying you don't have genius schemers, but you got the genius strategist in terms of Belichick. And then you got this guy with a photographic memory on the other side.
Yeah.
And I just think that's an interesting matchup in and of itself where these skills, one's from years of experience, but one is just a talent that, not many people have that can remember plays at that particular level. So I did think that was pretty amazing.
Something that came out during the interviews just the other day was, and I'm not sure if he meant to say this or it slipped out, but McVay told the media that he texts and talks with Belichick several times a week, and he's been doing it since the beginning of the season.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so he's a bit of a protege, even though he never actually played for or coached under him.
It's common knowledge that Belichick really, really likes him. He's very fond of him. He thinks he's really a great young coach, and he admires what he's done in a short period of time. But you know me, man. when it comes to the Patriots, it's always the conspiracy theory. I think, and I don't want to go so far as to say Belichick knew that they were going to end up in the Super Bowl together. But I think he'd been doing the old okey doke mind probe on my boy all season.
So in those conversations, you think Belichick's coming out with more data than what McVay's coming back with?
He's a smart guy, man. Why you pony up to this dude? You know what I mean? Supposedly they don't talk X's and O's, supposedly. But if they talk any type of philosophical football shit at all, that gives Belichick a leg up on him. He's feeling him out. He knows.
Can you imagine Belichick on the phone with McVay? Belichick's going, Lou, I am your father.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a good tidbit right there. I like that. All right. Anything else?
Nah, just go Knowles.
Go Knowles. All right. Everybody have a nice night. Peace.